Good morning. Hi, everyone. It is Stacy. This is Loving My Veteran, and we are walking in my shoes this morning. Let me grab some coffee. Everybody get your coffee and come visit us. Feel a little better this morning. Um, so just want to say good morning. Let me get everybody, like I say, come on board, pop in, get your coffee. Um, and we'll get started. There's a lot going on. Like I said, don't forget today is Wednesday. So when we're done with this, we usually flip over, and we will, to Behind the Service podcast for coffee, conversation, and collaboration. That is on Wednesdays. It is at 10 a.m. Eastern time. The link is on our group. I'll make sure that y'all can see that again. And speaking of Behind the Service podcast, I have to say happy birthday. Today we are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Behind the Service podcast, and there's amazing women and what they have brought to the forefront as far as caregivers and the spouse community and what it takes to go behind the service. We want to give today is coffee. Today is Wednesday, right? Yes. It is their birthday, and they're having a birthday celebration as well. So I'm super excited for them. So we're going to do that. Will be tonight at 8 o'clock is their birthday celebration. And Libby and them can explain more, and we'll post more about that as well today as we go forward. So just wanted to put that out there too. I'm trying to do two things at one time. Sorry. Got that all handled. So we got that situated. Stephanie, 6:30 tonight, does her Wellness Wednesday check-in. It is amazing. Love her. Can't wait to hear what she has to say as far as good things go. What else do we have? Tomorrow night, we have Let's Talk. We do that every Thursday night. It is a Zoom meeting where we bring spouses, veterans, everybody together, just have a great conversation, and we all go forward with that. So that's on there as well. Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get into the subjects. We've been talking about abuse. We've talked about abuse in a different way than what most people think about. You know, where does our abuse stem from? Some of it we've discovered is from ourselves and our own internal dialogue. That is a tough thing to deal with. Some of it is external abuse, and that is from systems. It's not necessarily from a person. It's from a system that we deal with that makes us feel like less of a person. So today I want to talk about emotional abuse. There is a difference between verbal abuse. That is the you suck, you can't do anything right, I hate you kind of thing. Good morning, Melissa. That is the verbal abuse. And then there's a thing that we live with, and it's called emotional abuse. And I am not proud to say this at all, but I am a horrific emotional abuser. The one person in this world who loves me and is here for me every single day, I emotionally abuse him at times. Not proud of it. I'm not good at saying that. But emotional abuse, morning, Michelle, emotional abuse comes from when we bring up past baggage. Okay, when we bring up their past. The easiest example that people will relate to as far as emotional abuse comes from, and it's a horrific example, and I hate to even use this example, but this is where you're going to see emotional abuse in play, probably more than anywhere when we talk about abuse, is what happened when our Vietnam veterans came back. Now, let me set the stage for you just a little bit. Vietnam, we utilized the draft. So it was not an all volunteer group of people. Okay. These men were drafted, a lot of them, and were told, you're going to go fight a war. You're going to go fight a war whether you like it or not. So they went somewhere, they fought a war. There were people that didn't believe in it, and they went to Canada and whatever, and they were labeled, the Dodgers. They didn't love the country. They were the traitors, whatever. But then this whole group of people come back from Vietnam. This whole group comes back from Vietnam. And what happens when they get here? They went someplace they didn't want to go. They didn't sign up for. They didn't volunteer for. Good morning, y'all. Are y'all still on vacation? I got Erica and Kevin out there. It was a beautiful trip, by the way. So they went somewhere they didn't even ask to go to. They came back and people spat on them and they called them baby killers and they threw blood on them. That is emotional abuse. Emotional abuse. Because you take something from somebody's past that they didn't necessarily control and you bring that up. That is not verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is when you just go in and you slam somebody and you put them down over and over again. But when you dredge up somebody's past and something they did, and you throw that in their face and you turn it around and you say things like, you're the baby killer. We're going to spit on you. We're going to throw blood on you. We're going to do all these things to you. That is emotional abuse. So it's an example. It's crappy that it happened, but it is a very good example of what it is. So we start understanding emotional abuse. We can be emotionally abused, not necessarily from the person in our household. Yeah, how many times have we been to work and I can remember this being said over again and over again at work, where we've had a particular patient, a particular call, a particular type of call, and them say, oh, I don't want them to do it. They don't do good babies. Because they had one bad baby call, we're going to blow that up and say, you can never take a baby call because you're not good with kids. Hello, that is emotional abuse and demeaning somebody at an emotional level. You blew up something from their past and brought it back, and that becomes emotional abuse. And we deal with it from other sources besides just in our house. However, I am not proud to say this. I use emotional abuse in a level I never should. I will say stuff to Carl about his past. Well, you didn't, and no wonder this happened, and it is ugly. And I don't realize that's not verbally abusing him. Verbal abusing him would be, you're worthless, you're this, you're that. When I bring up something from his past and lay it to the table today, something negative, that is emotional abuse. Yeah, and we have to remember that we get in this mindset and people do this, and I'm not saying that abuse doesn't go on. Yes, I have been, and we will share that story going forward throughout this adventure. When we're talking about abuse, I will open up my personal story more. But that is emotional abuse. Okay? People do get abused. There is physical, emotional, sexual abuse. I understand that. And it is never acceptable. But we don't realize sometimes when we talk about abusive relationships, that is probably the number one reason why we formed Loving My Veteran, because I went looking for help and all I found was negative bashing. And I didn't want negative bashing. I wanted somebody to tell me it was okay to love my veteran, that it was okay to love him, but I needed you to help me figure out how to work together to build our relationship stronger. I didn't want you to tell me, leave, run, get out. Now, I'm not, because I already had those thoughts, or I wouldn't have been looking for help. I already had those thoughts like, can I live my life this way? Is this going to be what I'm destined to do? Is this going to be it? I already had that. I didn't need to be told anymore about the negative. I wanted somebody to sit down with me and be honest with me and say, this is where you're screwing up. This is where he's screwing up. This is how y'all come together to make it work. Okay. This is how it works. I didn't need that. I already had that. And anything else was negative, and anything else was emotionally abusive. So if you throw that crap up, we don't live in a completely one-sided emotional, an abusive relationship. People say that. I found when I was looking for, that's abuse, that's abuse, that's abuse, that's abuse, that's abuse, that's abuse. No, that's a relationship and people are arguing. I'm not saying that part of it didn't happen and there wasn't some abusive. I mean, I saw pictures of these people posted, black eyes, broken arms. That's abuse. Been there, done that. Okay, I can say that I have been there, done that. But doesn't mean that everything is abusive and it comes out that way, but we have to also realize that throughout our entire world, we live in an environment of abuse. We abuse food, we abuse drugs, we abuse alcohol, we abuse our freaking Facebook, we abuse TV, we abuse each other. We do this. So when you talk about emotional abuse, it is bringing up baggage that doesn't need to be there. And I, unfortunately, am really good at it. And I have to work on this. This man loves me unconditionally on days I don't feel lovable, and he's still here. I wonder how many times he went in the bedroom and said, what the hell did I get myself into? And he does it every day for me. Every day for me. So that's where I'm talking about this emotional abuse. When this is not a secret, it is a known number here. This happens. A lot of military and their veterans have been divorced. And so you have children from another relationship and whatever. There are a lot of wives, a lot of spouses who want ex-wives, ex-spouses at this point, that want their children, and they use the PTSD and say, oh, you're emotionally abusive, you're physically abusive, you're going to trip, you're going to do this. I don't want my child in this unstable environment. And what do? They paint this picture of this horrific Rambo going off, taking a knife in the woods, slashing your kind of person. And they use that and their past experience of war against them, where they don't even see their kids and they don't realize the damage they're causing. Okay, that's emotional abuse at the highest level. And we do it. And then I play into it. Well, maybe da. So, you know, it goes on and on and on. Yeah, I mean, they make up this stuff so it can be like, he's a beast and he's horrible and he's this and he's that and he's other. And we're gonna get a protection order against the kids because I just think you're this. You know, forget the fact that they fuel the fire too. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen and that sometimes you need to protect the children. I'm not saying that, because I firmly believe you protect your children. That was why I divorced my first husband. It wasn't necessarily because I didn't love him, because that was a horrific situation with a long line of addiction. And I didn't want my kids to grow up in that. And I did that for my children. I protected them that way. But you go out and you get this protection order. You still want that money to come in. And then you say, oh, well, you can't see him. You can't talk to him. You can't do this. Or they'll call, right, to talk to their kids. And they're like, nope, you can't do that today. I've changed my mind. That's emotional abuse at the top of the list. And we see it. We see it. We see it. You know, we talked about some of the outside stressors. Do you not think that when you schedule an appointment to go to the VA, right, and you're going to get your stuff going on in the VA system, and then they're like, Sorry, we're not going to do this today. Boom. We already know that you're psycho, so here's some more drugs. Here's your next emotional abuse level. It happens. And we have to get out of this emotional abuse. And emotional abuse is when we take situations from people's past and we label them based on that, and we don't look at the character of the person. We look at the past actions and we keep throwing it up over and over and over and over and over again. And that becomes emotional abuse. And I think about Carl and what he does for me. Y'all know that I've talked about this. Like, I have caught the stove on fire twice. Okay, I'm not proud of that. It's just my brain works that way, and I get the brain fog, and I've done that. But you know what? He doesn't come into me and say, baby, you done caught the stove on fire twice. You are never allowed to turn the stove on again. He doesn't say that to me. Now, I won't tell you that if I'm cooking something on the stove, that he doesn't get up and check on it to make sure I haven't forgot it, or to check to make sure the burners are off when I'm done. But he never throws that up in my face. If he continued to throw that up in my face, well, you can never cook again because you have something that you can't control that caused you to leave the stove on. That's emotional abuse. He doesn't do that to me. He doesn't do that to me. He doesn't come in and say, oh, how dumb are you? You forgot your medicine. Well, you know what? Part of the reason I'm taking this medicine is because I forget things. He doesn't come in and do that to me. If he realizes I'm really late at taking it, he will walk in and set them next to me. But he never calls me out on that, because calling you out on that is emotionally abusive. It is taking your fault that necessarily may or may not be able to control, or situations that you have going on that you may or may not be able to control, and throwing them up at you and bringing this baggage to light and belittling you by utilizing your past. That is emotional abuse. So I'm not making accusations in this, because I do this and I didn't realize it. And I really realized it the past 2 days, and I did it the day before yesterday, and did it yesterday, and I really didn't want to do it either day. And I realized what I was saying and doing and how wrong it was, and I still did it. And it wasn't like I intentionally set out that morning and said, today, let me see if I can emotionally abuse Carl. I was pissed off, and I was in my own pity party and in my own state. And I brought up past, because, my weapon of choice is my tongue, which I really need to work on. And I brought it up, and I did it twice. And I'm not proud of that. So when you look at this abusive relationship, people say, oh, I live in abusive. I've done that, been there, done that. Standing there with a butcher knife next to your neck and black eyes and that kind of fear is truly an abusive relationship. There ain't no doubt. But the fact that we both utilize hurtful things and say hurtful things to each other does not constitute this abuse the way people tend to gather it around. And I know some of you may not like what you're getting ready to hear when I say this. And if you don't, that's fine. Put it in the comments. Like, you're nuts, Stace. You're crazy. If you believe this and you're getting what I'm saying, click the little like button. Click on that. Let us know that, hey, we're liking this. You're making sense to me. It's important to learn these things. So where I'm at with this is, we tend to do that, and emotional abuse is not necessarily something we do to each other either. It happens from the outside. Other sources. Again, other sources can bring that to us. How often have we said, how much longer am I going to live with this mistake? We make mistakes. People make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But having that mistake thrown up over and over and over and over and over again in your face, whether it is from your spouse, whether it is from your parent, whether it is from your child, whether it is from your boss, whether it's from your friends, having that mistake thrown up over and over and over and over and over again in your face is emotionally abusive, regardless of where the source comes from, because it attacks our emotion. It makes us feel like less of a person. We can't live our lives this way. We have to understand that is part of the cycle. I have to learn to stop doing that. You know, I told y'all, you want to talk about, I need to be like right up in the middle of if you wanted to take the picture frame, you know, all these pictures, we're putting their little picture frames and the stuff around there. You need to create a picture frame for me that says abuser. Because I'm telling you, I abused myself mentally, verbally, emotionally. I was the first abuser to my own self, was me and my interior dialogue. I did it. I am mentally, because you lash out at people, and you when you hurt, you tend to say hateful things because you want other people to hurt like you. When you hurt, you tend to say hateful things to people because you want them to feel your pain. You want them to see your pain. Nick was a prime example of wanting people to see his pain. And I'm not sharing that story, that she shared that story. You go listen to Melissa's caregiver story, but you listen to that story. Nick wanted people to see his pain. So sometimes when we become emotionally abusive, it's because we have pain of our own going on, and we don't know how to communicate well enough to say, this is what I'm going through. I hurt. This is what I need to vent out. I hurt, to the right person. And so we start throwing things up from people's past, throwing things up to make them feel less, making yourself feel more important, making them feel less important. And we do it without realizing it at the time. And when you sit back and look at it, you're like, oh crap, that's emotional abuse. So I need like this picture frame. I'm not proud of it. This picture frame that says, hey, I'm an abuser. I am an abuser. It doesn't make you proud of it. It makes you. I abused myself mentally, my own dialogue. I emotionally abused myself by saying I didn't add up. I emotionally abuse the one man who loves me unconditionally because I hurt, and I couldn't be honest and have a conversation with him about why I hurt. It was my own emotional baggage. And I tell you all the time, you need to learn to communicate. 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 Let me tell you something right here and right now. The number one way to create emotional abuse, sometimes I say things I didn't mean. Even realize how much it hurt others. You're right. Sometimes I say, the print on this is teeny small for me. I need to move to the big screen. We don't realize that. We don't realize how much what we say hurts others. We don't realize that that's going on. And, you know, we talked about walking on eggshells and how walking on eggshells is never a good thing. And I sit here and I preach it to you all the time, and I talk about it all the time. And I'm telling you, I make mistakes. I make them every single day. I am not a saint. I don't always, I try to live by what I talk about. And the reason I can talk about what I talk about is because I've lived it. It's not some made up thing. This is real. This is me. This is our relationship. This is my past baggage. You get it all. You want to know me? You have done seen me. It's been almost a year now, and you're going to see sides of me and you're like, oh, I'm not even sure I like this person. But I'm telling you, it's real and it's what I go through. And I tell you not to walk on eggshells. And so he's asked me, I've had a bad couple of days, and Carl's asked me, what's going on? I'm fine. You know, I think those two words, which was actually three words. I am fine, but I'm fine. Those words ruin a relationship more than any words in the English language. I'm fine, because you're not. If they can see what's going on with you enough to say, are you okay? And you say, I'm fine. You are walking on eggshells, and you are lying to them, and you're creating that doubt, and you're lying to yourself, and you're not always fine. And we've already talked about it's okay not to be okay. So when I walk on eggshells and I don't want to tell him what's going on because I don't want to address it, either me address it right now, or I don't want to add the baggage to his life because he is 100% behind me all the time, and I don't want one more thing for him to worry about. When I do that and I say I'm fine is a precursor to emotional abuse is coming out, because I'm not fine. And when you're not fine, you say ugly things that you don't even realize. So when those words I'm fine are coming out of my mouth, it is a trigger that is a warning sign. It needs to be I'm fine, and it needs to flash a big sign that says this sister is fixing to be emotionally abusive. You need to watch out. And I need to look at those words when I say I'm fine and say, we're going to say things we don't mean. You need to air it out. Find a way to communicate. Whether it's communicating right about it right now, or saying, hey, I have something I need to talk to you about in a few minutes, and get yourself together, because you are setting yourself up to be emotionally abusive when you say the words I'm fine and you walk on eggshells, because we hold it in until we get so angry and so frustrated and so ready to just spew venom that we do that, and the venom becomes emotionally abusive. I did a pop-up yesterday live on the Facebook page, and it was how I felt yesterday. I literally wanted to stand on top of the coffee table in the living room and stomp my feet like a 2-year-old and say, what about me? I'm done with everybody else right now. What about me? So at that moment, I knew I wasn't fine, but I didn't say anything. When I could have eliminated so many issues by walking in and saying, honey, I'm not doing really well right now. I've got a lot going on in my head and I need to talk. Can we talk? And had I have done that, I would not have been the emotional abuser yesterday. And I know that this may not be what you want to hear. This may not be the realities of what you want to hear. We talk about, yes, our veterans have to be held accountable. Yes, the PTSD does not control our lives. Yes, there are things that in a relationship we both have to do together. But it is so hard. And this is where we struggle so often, where people are like, I'm not sure I want to hear what she's got to say. Because like I told Stephanie, who lit the fire under my ass yesterday. The one thing about Stephanie is if I ask her if my ass looks fat in those jeans, she's going to tell me. She says, no, I'm not, because badonkadonk, everybody needs a badonkadonk. I'm just saying. That was nice of her. But she knew that I wasn't fine anymore. And I tried to tell her that, and she's like, no, you're not. So let's have a conversation. And so we have to accept that. We have to accept that we're not always okay. And part of this group that is so hard for a lot of people to not get, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure I want to talk to her because she's going to call me out in the carpet. You're damn right, because we all make mistakes. It's not just the veteran. It's not just PTSD. It's not just any of this. It is the way it all comes together. And some of it starts with us. And that is a hard pill to swallow when you're sitting here feeling sorry for yourself and you are feeling sorry for yourself. It is a hard pill to swallow, a very hard pill to swallow, that some of it originates with us because we don't want to accept blame. Because when we accept blame, we look at it as a fault. It's not a fault. It's what is. The fault is letting it go on and not doing something about it. What we've already done and what we're doing is what it is. Blame and fault come from knowing there's a better alternative and choosing not to do it. That becomes a fault. You never, look, Thomas Edison would never have invented the light bulb had he not have failed so many times first. He knew we would all still be sitting in the dark had he not have known it was wrong. The way his original design, when it didn't work, he knew the concept. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to generate light, right? He knew what he wanted, and he kept taking steps over and over and over and over and over again till he could achieve that. I want a loving, growing, happy, nurturing, productive relationship with Carl. And I am going to fail multiple times getting there, but I'm going to take action to get there. And when we can't do that, and all we do is say, I'm fine, and throw up baggage from the past, we become emotionally abusive to them, to ourselves, to everybody else. And we need to stop, because that's how this works. That's how it works. So I want you guys to not say you're fine when you're not fine. I want you to say, I'm not fine. And if you can't communicate with them why you're not fine, first be honest. I'm not fine. Can we talk about it? And if they say no, or I don't want to, say, okay, but I'm going to talk to somebody who can help me or who can listen. Because most of the time we don't want solutions. We just want to be heard. We want our not fine to be respected. But guess what? They want their not fine to be respected too. You can't take away their PTSD. You can't make it go away. There is no wonder drug that's going to suck it up. I think we heard something. I don't remember who told me the research. I think it was Michelle. That they now think that they have a shot that will cure PTSD. I'm like, okay, let's just work with that. Okay, thank you. It doesn't, you can't unsee it. You can't undo it. I have it. You can't unsee it. You can't undo it. You can't make it go away. You can't do those things, but you can learn to live within it. And you can learn to function within it. And are those memories still going to come back when I absolutely least expect them? Yes. But you know what? When they come back and Carl says to me, are you okay? I'm not going to say I'm fine anymore. I'm going to say, no, I'm not. And he's going to say why. And I'm either going to choose to share with him that experience, or I'm going to say, I'm having a moment and I need to work through it. That's honesty. That's communication. And that is not being emotionally abusive anymore. It's being honest. So just wanted to share that with y'all. This abuse series is hard for me because it's calling me out on the carpet on so many things I do wrong. But I think we have to hear it. We have to hear it. So I'm going to pop off of here. Behind the Service Podcast, Coffee Conversation Collaboration is today in 25 minutes. Their birthday celebration is tonight. Happy birthday to Behind the Service Podcast. Y'all pop over to their page and put a birthday post on there and tell them all happy birthday. Behind the Service is their Facebook page. If you're not in their group, it is Behind the Service Podcast. Go tell those wonderful, wonderful women and my dear friends happy birthday. I'm super proud of them. Y'all realize that most of these organizations like us, like Behind the Service, don't last a year. And next month, we're going to celebrate our 1 year too. So I'm really excited about that. A lot coming up with that. Thank y'all for being here. Tons going on. Erica, I'm glad y'all got back and Kevin got back. It was a great trip. I just wanted to go with you because it was fabulous, y'all. Again, cannot thank everybody enough for their support and their love and making Loving My Veteran what it is, because we are a community here. We are truly a community. And when you see the happy pictures like Erica and Kevin on their vacation and Melissa and Nick in the hot tub smiling together, and the pictures that Damon and Michelle posted of them out eating and having a good time, and Nakia and Richard, that is what Loving My Veterans about. It's about loving them where they are and going forward. So again, I'm going to get off of here. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. We are Loving My Veteran. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you tomorrow.